different countries they bought germplasm and they work in a whole set of different environment. So biosecurity issues are much more than the normal institutes, ICR institutes. So biosecurity should be much better in these institutes compared to others.
Perfect, good. That is a good answer. But then let me ask you, other than CGIAR, others do not get from other countries germplasm? They do get.
Yeah,
they do get. They use it also. Yes. So, do you think the biosecurity, the policy and mechanisms should be different to CGIAR compared to others, or it should be the same? What do you think? It should be same. Anybody feels it should be different? And if different, why? I will tell you, they want it to be different. CGIAR wants it to be different. Whether it can be different or not is a future will tell, but what they wish I will cover to you at the end of the lecture. So, why they want to be different? A hint is European passport holders do not require visa to many countries including USA. Am I right? Why? There are no terrorists in Europe. There is a lot of peace and security in Europe. Why only Europe is having that? This is a food for thinking, food for thought, that why European passport does not require visa, and same way why CGIAR people want something different. Some link is there between them. Let us see. Worked. This room is so familiar to me. I sat in this room for more than 25 years. So, then the current head of NBPGR Regional Station Hyderabad is Dr. Sarath Babu, who is now following biosecurity for ICRISAT, which is a CGIAR institute. And the Dr. Ravi Khetrapal, he was head of plant quarantine here, and now he is executive secretary APARI. Do you know what is APARI? Asia Pacific Association of Agricultural Research Institutes. It is an FAO constituted body, APARI. So, we are proud that an FAO constituted body based in Thailand is headed by a member of this NBPGR. Not only Dr. Khetrapal, Dr. Tyagi is also in the same. I am also consultant to them. So, we are gone little beyond India and serving at the Asia level on not only on plant genetic resources, agricultural research in general. Then he is the one, Dr. Khetrapal is the one who is currently connected with the biosecurity policy of CGIAR institutes. APARI is giving consultancy on biosecurity to CG centers. So, that is now going on. What changes will come in the future we do not know, we will discuss what is going on. So, I am the past Dr. Sarath Babu is the present, future is Dr. Khetarpal. So I have made sure that I contact all the people and right information comes to you on CG Centers Biosecurity. So now I have a habit of asking questions before I start. The topic is now known to you. Last 10 days you are already in this topic related to this. So before I start, you have any concerns or major questions which I think I should deal, otherwise I may skip. Would you like to ask any question regarding this? The same question, and almost early 2000 I asked in Rice Institute on IPR and PGR policy, which was new at that time. Then they asked me 33 questions. I sat down and noted all the 33 questions, responded to all 33 questions. Class time is over. I said my PowerPoint is maybe circulated. Any questions by email you ask. Same thing happens many times with the senior people. Nowadays I don't put pen and, but I can note in the phone itself on the notes. So do you have any concerns or questions? 5 minutes or 5 questions, which the topic you know that biosecurity at CGIAR Institute with special reference to ICRISAT is the topic. Any questions? Somebody has to break the ice, then things will move. So that's okay. But during the talk also, you can stop me anywhere and ask a question when you know that this is. Yeah, I think you wanted to ask something. Yeah, please.
Like in India, we have many acts on concerning biodiversity and environment. Can't we pull all the major issues and make one umbrella act and act under that? There is the Environment Protection Act, there is some international.
That's a good. I got the question. It's a good question, because if you remember in the first term of Modi government itself, they said all redundant acts will be removed and the language also of the acts will be changed. So it's a good question. I have a slide on that. What are the acts relevant to the biosecurity and biodiversity in general, and then which are the ministries that deal with them. We already have a solution for that. The solution of bringing one act may be difficult in practice, because do you know agricultural biosecurity bill when it is introduced to the parliament? Agricultural seed bill when it is introduced, do you know? 1994 seed bill. Agricultural biosecurity bill is introduced in 2013. Till today nothing happened. So if you want to combine or bring a new act, it's a cumbersome and lengthy process, and it's a political process, very difficult to bring a parliament act. So hence implementation is more important than actually what is stated in the acts. So for implementation purpose, already the solutions are found out, that interministerial committees are formed, which will deal with the different acts. You may be in different ministry, but all of you sit together and make the implementation part. So that part we will deal with. Any other question?
Why is it made biosecurity?
Sorry?
Object of the biosecurity project.
What?
Biosecurity Act.
Why biosecurity? Why biosecurity? It's a good question. We will also deal with that in the probably in the first few slides itself. Difference between biosecurity and biosafety, what is it? Is there anything, or are they same? Plant quarantine, biosecurity and biosafety, are they same or different? We will discuss. Similarly, biodiversity, plant genetic resources or biological resources, and also the other germ plasm. Are they all same? Can we use exchange between the words, or is there any difference? We will discuss about that. Biosecurity is definitely required, important. It has contributed to the economy of the global economy as well as the country's economy of different national governments. So, it is a well proven that the biosecurity is a must, it is required. Why and how, we will see that. Yeah. Any other question? I like the question, both the questions. You should one, unless you question, you can never improve the systems. See, when I worked,
Sir,
yeah,
I have a question.
yeah.
How can we aware about biosecurity to the farmer?
To the farmer.
Farmers.
Very good. Okay, we will talk about it. Farmer, biosecurity to the farmer. Yeah. So, what I am saying is, I worked for 6 years in IRI, 25 years in NBPGR, 6 years as a director of oilseeds research. So, my experience says, whosoever disagrees with me in the institute is the best contributor for my development. If somebody says whatever I am saying is excellent, good, very good, you are great, sir, that means he is not contributing anything to me. If somebody says that what you are doing is not right, and why this is not right, and if he gives me the reason, he is the person who is contributing to my growth and development. So, for any science growth, questioning attitude is extremely important. Why it should be, why not it should be, with logic, that is very important. So, no more questions, we will proceed. Yeah. Okay. So, first thing is actually in why actually biosecurity is because these are in fact very old figures, and 2012 publication, still it is very old, 7 years, but it is to give you an importance, what is the worth of the biodiversity and in what sectors this biosecurity works, like pharmaceutical, seeds. Seeds alone is $30 billion business with biodiversity. So, $30 billion business in 2006, today it will be much more, and everything is derived from the plant genetic resources. The seed, nobody can create a seed out of air, it has to be, we have to use genetic resources, then only a seed can be created. Any variety can be released with only plant genetic resources. Then we have the personal care, botanicals, food and beverage industries, a huge billion-dollar industries which use genetic resources available directly in the forest or maybe cultured and used or tissue cultured and used. It is a huge market. So, biodiversity is very valuable, billions of dollars. There was attempts even in India, valuation of biodiversity. There are 2 books coming from the National Biodiversity Authority which values the biodiversity. Most of the time this valuation is theoretical. What is the practical valuation that you can that will happen in the market? Can you guess? For biodiversity, in the market, who evaluates the biodiversity? Seed companies. When somebody buys, one company buys another company, it is not just buildings and land, it is the parental lines or the germplasm, what they have is the value of that company. That is much more than land and buildings. Sometimes you can see one example, even 3-4 years back itself, one company in Andhra Pradesh makes every year 1200 crores by selling cotton seed. One crop, one company in a small state, maybe they sell across 4-5 states, but 1200 crores of rupees, and that means that the germplasm used for that has got that potential. If slight change, it can go much higher. So, that means when very high valuable biodiversity is available with us, and if we leave it to the risk of exotic pests coming and destroying our diversity, we cannot afford, and that is why biosecurity is required to protect the biodiversity from the exotic pests and pathogens. We require policies and mechanisms and regulatory framework. That is what is biodiversity. Similarly, it is not just the seed or the plant, it is also the genes, the DNA also has got lot of potential. The value is estimated very high, and then it is every year increasing. The value is actually 10% growth is there for the 5 years period, every 5 years period. So, the value of the genes is also extremely important. When you form the biosecurity, whether gene also subjected to biosecurity or it is only seeds? Gene also? Yes, gene also. And gene in what form? Chromosome, cell, tissue culture, or in what form the gene will be subjected to biosecurity? DNA, because that is where extraction and then gene work starts with the basic of DNA. So, DNA has also considered as a seed in the plant quarantine, and then it is also subject to biosecurity. It is not only physical seed, but the DNA also. So, sometimes when we define a pest, it is not necessarily a pest, a susceptible gene also can become a pest, a susceptible gene. A live example is, in case of pearl millet, there is one parental line imported into India, it is called TIFT23A by ICRISAT, and that is highly susceptible to downy mildew, but a highly combining ability is there for making hybrids. So, it is used extensively. So, what happened? We spread the susceptible gene across the hybrids across India. Then the downy mildew pathogens are there in the soil, in the air, everywhere. But when the susceptible gene is there, then only the disease expression will come. So, it is not just a pest comes and destroys, a susceptible gene can be introduced into your hybrids which are widespread in the country, and that can destroy your biodiversity also. So, that is why the DNA and the biotechnology is also important. So, now the question somebody asked is on biosecurity, biosafety, plant quarantine. They are different, they are not the same. Biosecurity is the policy and regulatory which protects the plants, animals and the environment in which they live from the exotic pests. That is the biosecurity. So, biosecurity, when we say, it is the policy and regulatory framework that is developed, and it is just not only protecting plants and animals, but also the environment in which they live. So, biosafety is it is not actually physical terms, explanation or definitions, but is the context in which we use. Biosafety is used in the context of GMOs. If a GMO is developed, that is transgenic crop is developed, if transgenic crop has to be released into the environment, then biosafety is considered. That means what will happen if this revised modified organism goes into the environment, the other soil microorganisms are okay, other insects are okay, whether it will destroy or whether it will improve or whether it will decrease, all those whether for human toxicity, microbial toxicity, all these things come under the biosafety. So, safety to the environment is the biosafety, particularly with reference to GMOs. Plant quarantine is quarantine word, you know that is 40 days, keeping the away, isolation. So, this is during the import. Same thing will happen to export when it goes to the importing country. So, import export procedures are the plant quarantine, pest free techniques. It is 4 parts, normally 3 parts everybody knows, 4th part sometimes it is ignored. The entry is prevented, spread is prevented, establishment is prevented. But you can call quarantine pest even if it is spread, even if it is established, entered, spread, established, still we can call it something as a quarantine pest if it is officially controlled by the state. That means we are concerned about that. It may be in 3 states, 4 states, and it is already established and it is causing damage, but we want to eradicate it, or we don't want it to further spread it. Then official control program, if it exists, then also we can call it as a quarantine pest. Then we have these are the 3 related terms. Any questions on these 3? Are they clear? Are they different? Yes. So, biodiversity, biological resources and germplasm. Anybody, any guess? What is the difference between biodiversity and biological resources or genetic resources? Any difference? The 10-day training program is over. you should be able to differentiate between biodiversity and genetic resources. Any difference? Both are same?
Resources are those which live in biodiversity. They are the habitats for genetic resources.
Perfect. Actually, the only difference between the genetic resources and biodiversity is the habitat in which they live is also part of the biodiversity. That means it is at ecosystem level. It is not just biological organisms. It is not the gene material. It is not the seed diversity. It is not the wild species. It is not the transgenic diversity available there. It is also the ecosystem in which they live. For example, wetland ecosystem. In the wetland ecosystem, to survive some plants, they need certain conditions. Those conditions are abiotic, not biotic. But if those abiotic conditions are removed, your biotic component just disappears. So that is why in biodiversity, ecosystem and abiotic factors maintaining that ecosystem are also part of the biodiversity, right? Then when it comes to genetic resources or biological resources, in our Biodiversity Act, mostly we use biological resources. And when we say biological resources, is the DNA included or excluded? Included, definitely included. Biological resource includes not only seed and plant, but also the DNA part of it. So the entire value of the biodiversity depends on its value to the human beings, whether giving the scents or whether giving food or whether it is giving medicine or whatever purpose we use it, the value, potential value of the biodiversity will determine the biological resource. And how do you know the potential value? Is it required that suppose our CDRI, that the Central Drug Research Institute or NBPGR, all of them are established recently, maybe less than 100 years, any institute, any research institute. So how do we know the value of these biological resources?
By your evaluation.
Suppose if you don't evaluate, you don't know. Who are the first knowledge holders of the genetic resources value?
Local tribes.
Tribes. Actually, that is why in the entire act, whenever we say biological resources, it is the associated knowledge is also part of the biological resources. So we know a plant, it cures the snake bite. Unless you know that it cures the snake bite, the value for that plant is not known. It's a weed for us. It is an out of place plant for us. We remove it, we don't know the value. So the associated knowledge with the biological resources is also part of the biological resources. Then germplasm. When we say germplasm normally refers to a species or a crop. Wheat germplasm, paddy germplasm, or bull germplasm for Ongole, or fish germplasm, a particular fish species. So when we say germplasm, it cannot be dead material. It has to be propagative. So when I say propagative, is DNA propagative? Yes, it is propagative. There are techniques available where one gene can be introduced into the another species. So they are propagative. So it should be propagative. It should be all the diversity, including wild relatives and the transgenic crops. When we say germplasm, it's not just related to the crop, all wild relatives of the crops, all the transgenic crops released, all the hybrids, all the cultivars, and also the ecotypes or the farmer varieties in that crop. There are different types of germplasm available in the crop. All of them put together is the germplasm for that particular species or crop. So clear about the terms that we are going to use? Any question? This is what somebody asked me. So many acts, so many ministries dealing, why not one act? Make the life simple to prevent it. Yes, that's an ideal thing to happen, but in the world ideal things never happen. We have to make them ideal to work for us. So the SPS, you know, what is SPS? It's an agreement of WTO. And then what is DIP Act? So based on the SPS requirement of the WTO, destructive insect pest, and also PQO. What is PQO? And who will deal with these, which ministry will deal with these things? Ministry of Agriculture. Ministry of Agriculture, definitely. Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare is the one which actually implements the DAP Act. And for SPS, there are global standards have to come. See, if there is all the slides will be shared with you. I have no rights on it. This is everything available in the literature. And then I also expect you, what is available in the Google, don't take it from me. You can also take it by yourself. Ask me some question, practical question, which is applicable in day-to-day working, or some knowledge which otherwise you don't get from the Google. Those kind of things is more important than just Google information. Right. So this CPB, what is CPB? Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety. Biosafety. Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety. This is for the GMOs, transgenic crops. So for transgenic crops, which is the ministry that deals with in India? Any other choice? Ministry of Science and Technology. DBT comes from in the Department of Biotechnology is part of Ministry of Science and Technology. So Ministry of Environment is the nodal ministry for the biodiversity as such. But when it comes to transgenic crops, the guidelines are developed by the DBT, and DBT is a Ministry of Science and Technology. Then you have the CBD, you know, all of you know CBD. Right. So based on the CBD, BDA has come, Biological Diversity Act has come in India based on that. If you tell me one difference in few words, 2-3 words, what CBD made difference to the world? In 2-3 words. Just 2 words or 3 words, not more than that. What difference CBD made to the world? If there was no CBD, what happens? If they after the CBD, what happened? Any difference? In just 2 words. Perfect, perfect. Sovereign rights to whom? Hmm? Perfect. But suppose I have a mango tree which flowers 12 months a year. Is it my property? Can I sell it to China? Can I sell it to USA? So whose property it is? It is in my backyard, my tree. So what CBD has given is ownership to whom? To the country, to the country. See, you can use, you can eat your mangoes, you can sell your mangoes within the country. If it goes, crosses the borders of the country, then you don't have right. Your right is lost. Your right is only within the country. So whether it is a state level or for individual level, village level or state level, at country level the ownership is given by CBD. So CBD made the single difference of giving the ownership to the country of the biological resources in their particular country, existing in their country. Then how many crops are cultivated in India? Any idea, rough estimation? How many crops are cultivated in India? Roughly 10, 15, 20, 100, 200, 1000, 2000. Any guesswork? 35? 135. About 500 species are cultivated in India. 500 species, not just for food, some for fiber, some for medicinal purpose, some for cosmetics, some for something else. But 500 species are cultivated in India. Do you know 51% of them did not originate in India. They were coming from outside. So for example, today breakfast, whatever you had the breakfast, there will be certainly some crops which originated outside India. Potato, tomato, potato, tomato, chili, everything has come from outside, from South America or from somewhere else it has come. We are using it. So now the diversity present in India on chilies. So shall we give everything to Argentina or South America, or does it belong to us? question mark or not sure. The chili germplasm has several thousands of actions of chili is there, lot of diversity is there in India. Does it belong to us or it belongs to the crop it originated? It originated somewhere else. Huh? Perfect. Can you tell one chili sufficient for 400 people for food? If you use one chili, it is sufficient. Yeah. Nagajolokia. Those things, it is measured in thermal units. The hotness of a chili is measured in thermal units, and it is 13,000 units. Thermal units is the Naga Zolokia, which is a diversity developed within the country. So, even if the origin belongs elsewhere, if it is domesticated, diversity occurs in the country, it belongs to us. So, we cannot claim the origin, but we can claim whatever diversity exists in our country, the ownership belongs to the country. So, that CBD, which ministry deals with CBD? Who implements the CBD? Ministry of Environment and Forestry, MOEF. And which is the authority which actually implements CBD? I mean BDA, Biological Diversity Act. Who implements Biological Diversity Act in India? Which is the authority? Like you have Plant Quarantine Authority. So, what is the authority for CBD? I mean Biological Diversity Act in India? It is NBA, National Biodiversity Authority, right? Where is the NBA located? Chennai. Who is the chairman? Last month, Mr. Mathur joined as a chairman of the CBD. Why the lecture is on biosecurity? Why I am talking all these things? Which control biosecurity? Which are the acts which will control the biosecurity, influence the biosecurity also? So, what is ITPGRFA? International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, right? Why there was necessity for this international treaty? Anybody can guess? We have already so many, see, it's not only India has several acts, globally also we have several conventions and treaties. It's not that just one treaty, every biodiversity is dealt with. So, what was the need to have ITPGRFA? And who prevents free exchange otherwise? Who prevents free exchange otherwise? CBD, because CBD gives ownership. If I am the owner, I will say, I will not give you. It's my right. Why should I give you? So, that means they thought we have created some convention for which acts are coming in the countries which may be against the food security, food and also fodder security. It is not only human beings, but animals also. So, that means suppose if there is a tsunami in some country, Bangladesh, all rice germplasm lost, India may say that we will not give you anything because it is our property, or we charge you so much, so you have to pay for this, otherwise we will not give you germplasm for your improvement. So, to prevent this, ITPGRFA has come. All the signatories of these countries cannot say no for sharing these things. So, who implements ITPGRFA mostly? I mean, it is a compulsory for them. Who are they? CG centers. CG centers. That is how ITPGRFA is extremely connected to the CG gene banks. That means CG gene banks, did they create some germplasm and put there in gene bank? Did they create some germplasm? No, they collected it. They collected it from different countries and they kept in the gene bank. So, whose property it is? It is all property of humanity. They are holding in the trust, in trust. So, when you are holding in trust and when ITPGRFA has come, any country asking for the germplasm from the CEG gene banks, they are the first liability for them to implement it and to supply to anybody. Then I want to motivate some of you. Unfortunately, there is a stagnation in research. stagnation in productivity in the crops. Various reasons. One of the reasons is less diversity used in breeding. Why less use? Any answer for that? Why less diversity is used in breeding? Any guess?
Because they have not yet characterized all the present in our
1960s also it was not characterized. When our
Same source they using.
where is our father of plant genetic resources? Idhar, right. H.B. Singh. When H.B. Singh was acting, it was not characterized. So the point is, we are aiming short-term objectives. To convert, to extract gold from the soil, it takes a lot of time. To extract a parental line from genetic resources is 5 to 10 years job, which nobody wants to do it. Everybody is in hurry. Next 5 years, if I want promotion, I have to release a variety. If I have to release a variety, I need a parental line which has good combining ability. Already these are available who have used it. I will change the combination, use it and bring it. So, narrow diversity has come into the crop diversity. Then, if this is the really case, then how come that our productivity did not come down? Productivity has come down or stagnated. Production did not come down. Who is giving more seed in the commercially, public sector or private sector? Private sector. So, ITP-GRFA and CG gene banks are maximum used by the private sector. Public sector is silently watching it and doing nothing. And then another point why I want to motivate you is because you are from 20 different universities, excellent. So, why I want to motivate you is that they are paying money to like WVC. What is WVC? World Vegetable Center. ICRISAT. ICRISAT, several companies have offices within the ICRISAT. By paying some money, they have become members of a program where every year ICRISAT will supply them some parental lines. So, this is the kind of, and who is utilizing? The private sector is utilizing it. Whether it is IRRI, whether it is AVRDC or WVC, World Vegetable Center or any important international institute, maximum utilization of germplasm is done by the private sector, not the public sector. And with ITP-GRFA, they are ready to give, but who is ready to use? There is a gap. Actually, we have created for a purpose the NBP-GR in 1976 by Dr. Swaminathan, that our germplasm line cannot be mixed with the commercial exports and imports. So, we need a separate quick channel to get the germplasm. Most of the imported germplasm of Dr. H.B. Singh has released as varieties directly through selection. The varieties are released. Now, there is no possibility. You have to spend time. Pre-breeding is the most neglected aspect. That is how the genetic resources are least utilized, because nobody wants to spend time on that, particularly in the breeding section. So, when I became the director of oilseeds research, I told them crop improvement, don't call it as plant breeding. Crop improvement. A pathologist can do crop improvement, an entomologist can do, an hematologist can do, anybody can do crop improvement, agronomist can do, nutrition efficiency, nutrient efficiency, utilization. So, this is possible. That is how we need that utilization using the ITP-GRFA to the advantage. Public institutes are lagging, we need to do that. And what is CITES? Trade of endangered species. We have a section in Biological Diversity Act. And what is the IPPC's job? Its job is to set standards recognized by WTO, the standards set by them for implementation of SPS. So, you cannot put standards beyond that level, beyond the IPPC level in any country. So, the DIP Act of course is already there, and Agriculture Biosecurity Bill 2013, it has already gone. So, it is very important that all of us know that FAO has approved in 2018 itself that the International Year of Plant Health is 2020. So, the universities and the NBPGR should be sensitized. How do we really promote this International Year of Plant Health? How do we really protect or biosecure our crops and our diversity existing? So, CG gene banks, out of the several 15 institutes, 11 of them have got the gene banks, and they are spread throughout the world. And these gene banks have got lot of germplasm, and which is the largest gene bank in the world? Sorry? Huh? I didn't hear. IRRI. No, IRRI has only 1,30,000, less than 1,30,000. So, it is the largest gene bank in the world is USA, and second largest is in NBPGR. NBPGR is second largest. But how much we have roughly with our gene bank? But the CG centers all put together, they have got more than 8 lakhs. Under SMTA, they have got more than 7 lakhs or 700,000 when we use internationally. So, these different centers, Africa rice has got 21,000, but IRRI has got another more than 1 lakh. So, all put together for different crops. So, what is the best opportunity following the biosecurity? Rice, wheat, okay, we have very well utilized, and we use the germplasm, we have the best production and productivity available here. But what about other crops which the CG gene banks are ready to share, but we are not making efforts to get that germplasm for utilization. So, whosoever is involved in the plant genetic resources or biodiversity, it is their job to see there is absolutely no problem for promotions. Any good work done will be published in any good journal. So, it is not just by releasing varieties only you get recognition. The varieties that are being released nowadays are just disappearing by in another 2-3 years. Another variety comes. So, you will be forgotten. But any significant science contribution you make to plant genetic resources, it will there forever, you will be recognized forever, and you get the promotions also. But it is a tough job, but that is what I want to motivate, that pre-breeding work of plant genetic resources, importing from any of the CG gene banks and using it for our advantage to our country is what is required to be done. Then we have the ICARDA has got a lot of germplasm. Now actually there used to be World Agroforestry, then International Center for Agroforestry. Finally, it is ended up as CIFAR. This is the one which is remaining after mergers, and this has got different trees, fruit trees, and then with low unsettled climatic change and water deficiency, it is the horticulture which gets really more importance, and a lot of horticultural germplasm is available. Compared to agricultural crops, it is much more difficult to use them, but somebody has to begin to use them. After 5 years, after 10 years, something will happen to introduce and to use them. And ICARSAT crops are only the chickpea, groundnut, pigeon pea, pellet millet and small millets and sorghum. Maximum germplasm is there in the sorghum which is being used. And IITA has got this germplasm. Several legumes are available, forages and fodder, more than 18,000 actions. Fodder is a big issue in India, and then good varieties are available, but are we utilizing the global germplasm available suitable to our requirement? Are we breeding them? That is what is required. For IRRI, somebody was asking, it is 1,23,000 only, whereas NBPGR has got 4,30,000 or 35,000. So, under SMTA, the CG gene banks have got 7,36,000 accessions available in the CG gene banks. Total is about 8,14,000. What is FAO designated accession? Any idea, anybody? What is FAO designated accession? Any idea? FAO designated accession means CBD has come into force in which year? That is Biological Diversity Act 2002. CBD has come into force on 29th December 1993. So in 1993, the ownership is given to the countries. Prior to 93, there was no ownership. So that belongs to whom then? What is available in the CG gene banks? To everybody. So that is called as FAO designated action. Whatever is collected in the consultative group, institutes, CG institutes, whatever is collected prior to 1993, that belongs to everybody, that is designated acquisitions by the FAO, that anybody can access them and take it freely, with of course an agreement called SMTA. And what is SMTA? Standard material. What is difference between MTA and SMTA? SMTA is designed by ITPGRFA for the purpose of mainly FAO designated actions, which cannot be said no. Any request comes, you have to supply. Maximum what you can say is, I don't have enough seed, multiply and give you next year. So it is an obligation to supply. So that is standard material transfer agreement. Same thing has to be used and supplied to different countries. What is Svalbard Global Seed Vault? Heard about it? Yes, okay. 243 countries contributed to it. 1,000 genera, 6,000 species. How many species are there in NBPGR gene bank? Any idea? Because species diversity is also important, isn't it? It's about 1,200 when I checked it, but it cannot be more than 1,500 even today. Species. And how many Svalbard has got? 6,000 species belonging to 1,000 genera. 9,83,000 actions are there. Indian origin taxa are 524, accessions are 73,000. Do you think the 73,000 has gone from NBPGR? Because in India, if somebody has to contribute to Svalbard, it should be NBPGR, National Gene Bank. So did we send them? We have not sent them. That's why we are criticized in the international for always. But how did they reach there then? It's by CG centers. Like if the CG centers have got germplasm collected from everywhere. Our germplasm of rice is available in IRRI. And then our germplasm of all these 6 crops in ICRISAT, more than 40,000 actions are there, which belongs to India. But ICRISAT, by its mandate, has to supply to Svalbard all the crops. So in the world, how many gene banks are there total? Around 1,750 gene banks are there. 100 countries have got gene banks, and they have 7.4 million seed samples are conserved. Asia, 69 countries contributed to Svalbard around 3,56,000. So in fact, you need not note anything, because the copy will come to you, everything, because this is all information available also on the Google. So what we need to ask is,
why India has not contributed to Svalbard? Any specific reason?
who will actually, I didn't ask you that question last time when I showed you all the acts. Who will control ITPGRFA in India? I told SPS is Ministry of Agriculture, CBD is Ministry of Environment, and GMOC is Ministry of Science and Technology. Who controls ITPGRFA? Who is the national focal point for ITPGRFA? That's DAC. DAC, Department of Agriculture, Cooperation and Family Welfare of Ministry of Agriculture is the key agency. So there were lot of delay in deciding the national focal point, and then also there were apprehensions. Many CG gene banks, they have no emotional attachment to any germplasm. It belongs to somebody else. You collected it and you are holding in trust. But any country gene bank will think twice before giving it, because what is our trade interest? If we give it, what will happen? And through whom it is going? How it is going? All these questions are there. So that is could be one of the reasons. So other thing is we may not be having so much effort to multiply and give it to them, because we can't take everything from the long term gene bank. If it is to be given, it has to be first multiplied, and then also once we send it, you cannot say it is not evaluated or characterized. We can't give without that. We need to evaluation and characterization. If something of very high market value, maybe we don't like to share it at the moment. Others we can share it. These could be reasons why the India did not do that. So under the plant treaty, as I already showed you, more than 8 lakhs are there, around 7 lakhs 30,000 is SMTA, that is FAO designated. They have already transferred about 4 million samples with SMTAs, and there is something called benefit sharing fund, and this benefit sharing fund is increasing day by day. Do you know what is ABS? Any idea? I am currently helping UNDP on this aspect, access and benefit sharing. Access and benefit sharing, that means if you access a germplasm from somewhere and if you commercialize it, so that somewhere is a village from where you collected it, you are supposed to share the commercialized benefits with those villagers from where it is collected. The only ICR institute which shared the benefit sharing is my institute, that is because of me. And it's good. I never thought, I never did for any purpose, but I got the India Biodiversity Award for that purpose, where there were no rules. In 2014 only ABS has come. Prior to 2014 itself, the village was compensated from where we collected some isolates, microbial isolates. Because we got some money, out of that some 10% we shared with the village. That's a model for access and benefit sharing. So benefit sharing fund now under ITP GRFA, huge amount is available. You know, even NBA has got 17 crores of money available with them for the access and benefit sharing money deposited with the NBA. They are not able to decide how to spend this money within the country. So you can guess the benefit fund available with the globally, India got 0. We didn't get anything. Maybe I remember from NBPGR registration we applied once. It's about maybe 2010 or 2009. At that time they were giving about $50,000 for each project if it is selected international competition. So we did not succeed in that, but till today we have not succeeded, because now they give more than this, 8 lakh US dollars per project. They will give it because so much money is available. They cannot spend so much money. India is yet to tap these project funds. So I motivate you sitting, somebody working with some people who are experienced, by collaboration, try to tap these funds. A lot of money is available internationally, which is contributed everybody including India. We need to use them. And little enthusiasm from public sector made us to access from the gene banks. I think we already discussed this. Germplasm health units. What is the biosecurity at the CG gene banks is, everywhere wherever there is a gene bank, there is they have actually developed something called germplasm health unit. They call different names at different places. For ICRISAT it is called as plant quarantine laboratory. Somewhere it is health quarantine unit, somewhere it is plant quarantine unit, seed health unit, whatever they call it, it is meant for biosecurity, for export and import of that CG center. These centers are established. Only in 2017 they have linked all these units with the gene banks, so that their biosecurity is properly done. So phytosanitary challenges are there, from collection, conservation, seed increase, exchange, etc. And can the plant quarantine laboratory of the ICRISAT is inaugurated in the year when I joined NBPGR Hyderabad. It is 1986. Dr. Paroda was our director. At that time we signed an agreement with the ICRISAT for the biosecurity, and then that plant quarantine laboratory, when it is constructed, Dr. Paroda said, I don't approve this laboratory unless NBPGR gets a room in this lab. We are the controlling authority. If we don't own this building, you cannot do anything. So then they put one room to NBPGR. Today, till today it is there. That is, our NBPGR Hyderabad staff can go and sit and work and examine whatever is happening there. So friends, the responsibility of the phytosanitary is not with the CG centers. They can give facilities, they can give procedures, they can give money, they can give people, but certification has to be done by national government. The national government in India has two channels. One is commercial channel, another is research channel. Research channel, who is the top man? Director NBPGR is empowered for the import permits, and then he in turn authorizes for phytosanitary certificate for export Hyderabad and Delhi. From both the places it happens. So whether it is a research institute or a university or CG center, they cannot escape this mechanism. They have to follow the, so the act is same, the security policy is same. The difference is that they provide some facilities, they provide some financial support, and that ICRISAT does it, but other CG centers are still did not catalyze the phytosanitation for their needs. Then in addition to monetary benefits, which I told you benefit funding scheme, non-monetary benefits are also available a lot, which can be tapped by making partnership, by asking for technology transfer, information exchange, and capacity building can be done. Then integrate whatever these germplasm units, health units do, not their on their own, but they have to integrate into countries and organizations which work to implement the plant treaties provisions and for the farmers' rights. Somebody asked what is the biosecurity for the farmer. Biosecurity for the farmer is certainly important, but it has to be like breeding is done finally to serve the farmer, but he does not breed himself. I wear a watch, I don't know any mechanism what is inside, I can't repair anything, but I use it. Same way biosecurity is to serve the farmer, but he is not the implementer. If he wants to export, it is the National Quarantine Service which will give the phytosanitary certificate, which will give guidelines to him that how the best example for export in India is grape exports. Grape exports, because they have got standardized system. EPIDA has spent a lot of money, time and technology for standardizing that. So you have to register if you want to export, and for registration itself, for last 3 years you should not have used the pesticides which are banned, because in your soil and in water residues can be there which will prevent your export. So registration is the first step, which is very difficult. They also have a system of agriculture or horticulture officers visiting that field. Their program will open only when your geographic location is that. That means unless you go to the farmer's field, you cannot enter his data. That's how technologically they bound. You can't feed the data in your room, you have to go to that field. So the list of pesticides that can be used, cannot be used, is already given it to them. So that's how the best example is there for the export orientation. The farmers are helped based on the national and international laws, the country where it is going. For example, European Union want to import the grapes, then their team is invited, and our growing conditions, the methods that we follow, the technology we do, we show it to them to gain the confidence, so that it doesn't get rejected. The hybrid seed of paddy is exported now to many countries in several tons. So sometimes it gets rejected. So unless that pre-export care is taken, sometimes you face the problems. So if you want to import any consignment in the CJR Institute, you have to apply for the import permit and send to NBPGR. When we are talking only about the germplasm for research purpose. That is why we don't talk of the PPA or other the PQFS stations across the airports and seaports. We are talking about germplasm for research purpose. Sent to NBPGR for the IP, import permit is issued, dispatch to the consignee through NBPGR, and dispatch of import permit to through the plant quarantine laboratory ICRISAT. Copy also will be sent to the exporter, by the importer, consignment is dispatched to India by the exporter, arrival of the consignment at New Delhi airport. We have declared that for all germplasm, it is New Delhi is the port of entry. From here Hyderabad it can go, but from the NBPGR Delhi, not everywhere. So sometimes the consignment would be held up at the airport, that is an issue, and the NBPGR deals with that deficiencies in some documents, and then it is sent from NBPGR Delhi to Hyderabad for ICRISAT, processing for NBPGR Hyderabad, release of consignment is for PEQ. What is PEQ? Post entry quarantine. So is it for only germplasm or for commercial consignment is also there? If somebody imports both, then if a commercial consignment is imported into Telangana, who is the person who will look after the PEQ? DPPQS, does it have enough staff to control throughout the country? Then how do they do it? No, it is through DIAs. What is DIA? Have you heard? DIA? Designated Inspection Authority. And who is the Designated Inspection Authority? It is a plant pathology professor from the university who is recognized as a DIA. He will go for the post-entry quarantine inspection because he is Designated Inspection Authority and from a university. So in case of ICRISAT, we have in a very secluded place away from the general breeding fields, there is a post-entry quarantine field, and all around that trees are grown so that it is not free flow, and also there is a board there that nobody can enter into this place without prior approval of whom? Not ICRISAT, it is head NBPGR, Hyderabad. So because that is the under the control of head NBPGR registration, Hyderabad. So the post-entry quarantine is isolated, present under the control of NBPGR to take care. Then finally, the inspection of harvested produce and final release to the consignee. There is one interesting example for the groundnut case that sometimes the bacterial wilt does not express in the greenhouse, does not express in Rabi, but expresses in summer. So if you grow in either in the glass house, you feel it healthy and you release it, and if you grow low temperatures, you feel it healthy and you release. So by chance the same material had to be grown again in summer, then almost everything is infected with the bacterial wilt. So it is the requirement of the pathogen which has to be seen in the post-entry quarantine and after importing these things. Then how do you know which pathogen is present in which country? What is the source? What is the source? In biosecurity, you are supposed to know if you are issuing, suppose, import permit. You are getting the import permit, getting the material from Kenya or getting material from some other country. What is the source? How do I check what Kenya has? वो तो बाद की बात है ना, पहले import permit देना है ना. First I have to issue import permit. There I have to put some conditions that this should not be infected with this which is present in your country, isn't it? So how do I know what is present in their country?
Every country has, like India have planned quarantine like this. Every country has.
Many of the countries do not have well advanced databases are not there available with them. बुक तो अपडेटेड नहीं है ना. कल एक पैथोजन आ सकता है, आज नहीं है कल तो आ सकता है. So it is the compendium of pests of CABI, which is very crop protection compendium. It is called CPC. If you put in the Google, you will get the details. Crop protection compendium is extremely important and it is updated online. You know that CABI publishes several journals, like in almost all entomology, pathology, weed science, nematology, everything is there. So they get the new reports and they can update their compendium. So if you want to check that before issuing the import permit, it is necessary that the universities, DIAs, everybody should have access to the CPC, crop protection compendium. So there online you can pay it, and everyday updated things you can see it there, because whenever the new journals come, new reports come, they update the crop protection compendium. Online you have to see that. So that's very important, that if you know that there is so and so virus disease in Kenya which is not reported from India, then you also should know under what conditions that virus expresses its symptoms. Is it a symptomless carrier? Then what are the other methods that we have to follow? So the methods are not a legal binding anywhere. It is the scientist's innovativeness that you find which method I should follow, and whether I have to get the anti-sera from the country from where it originated, and then test whether this is present or not, whether it is a symptomless carrier. All these things are possible for ICRISAT in that case, because number one, they support import of the anti-sera if it is required, and for glasshouse maintenance they give the money, and whatever technical assistance is required they will give it. Any contact required from the country of origin for communication, we get that. So that's how the CG centers are work hand in hand with the national quarantine system. Then things can, biosecurity is possible. Then export issues, that's about import we talked. So exports, of course, interministerial committee is there where the consignments have to be given. So many times import permit is time bound, like the person, a maize company from India has applied, got an import permit from outside, they want to import something. You know, it's very interesting that from Tamil Nadu, two people came to our Hyderabad station about a month back, and they are importing maize from USA, which is the maize is this much size, and it is coated with chocolate, and it's packed like chips, and it is sold in the movie halls. If it costs you 10 rupees, they will send it for 100 rupees. 100 rupees they will sell, 10 grams or 5 grams. They will sell it so high cost. So then if that import permit is issued and your country permission, interministerial committee permission takes 6 months, import expires. The consignment will be destroyed. Either for the export, the other country will suffer, or we will suffer, unless quick procedures for clearing, say yes or no, but it should be very quick. Then we have the FAO designated germplasm. As you know that more than 130,000 actions are available in the ICRISAT gene bank, and then out of that, which is designated, which is not designated, how many times I will check these things. It's an issue. When the import permit comes, first I have to check whether it is designated material or non-designated material. So for that they developed a software which I will show you, which made the life easy. Then like CIMMYT, IRRI and AVRDC also imports a lot, and NBPGR helps them. But the kind of support that we receive from ICRISAT is not received from these organizations. Like for example, every year, every paddy season, several thousands of samples come. We do it, but IRRI pays nothing. And AVRDC gets a lot, CIMMYT gets a lot. They are not in the same. And then why ICRISAT is giving them? Because of leadership. Dr. Paroda was there at the helm of affairs. The gene bank is called Paroda Gene Bank in ICRISAT, Raj Paroda Gene Bank. So the leadership saw to it that we are serving you in your interest. So you have large fund, support the activities which we are carrying out for you. Same thing is not happening in other case of other international institute. It should happen. Export facilitation, if you want to export anything, earlier it is only PC. Now you cannot export anything what you like. The Biodiversity Act is there in the place. You have to apply to NBA for permission. 10,000 rupees fee you have to pay and apply for that. If it is an Indian researcher or government institutions, then Form B. Here it is Form 1. And this one, within 45 days they will give it and apply directly to NBA. If it is a research organization which wants to export it. Then if your research organization in India and USA has got a collaborative project, you need frequent exchanges of germplasm, then you should get a one-time approval from NBA. For that, a lot of documents they will ask, like what is the MOU between the countries, when the benefit comes, are you sharing with India or not? Who is commercializing it? What is the flow of germplasm? And what germplasm is going? Whether any sensitive to, like for example, jute, in the world we have the interest, others may not have. So are we sharing such kind of germplasm? All these documents and undertakings are taken from the, and then NBPGR on behalf of them, for the collaborative project, they submit it to DAC. If once it is approved as a collaborative project, you don't require every time approval. You can, that is considered till the project period, and only you need phytosanitary certificate. Import permit can be issued without clearance from the NBA. Then you have the annex crops. Then you have to apply to the DAC, because it is now focal point. Any annex crop we are, how many annex crops are there? Is sugarcane an annex crop? Is soybean an annex crop? No, they are not. They mostly food and fodder. For example, soybean can be considered as a food crop, protein rich, oil, this is all food only. But mutual interest is negotiated, and only 64 species are included in the Annexure 1 list. If you put Annexure 1 of ITPGRFA, you will get the whole list. There are 64 species of food and fodder which are included in the annex, and which you have to apply. If you want to export, you take clearance from DAC, then only it can be done. Then research purposes, phytosanitary, for any of these things, once you get the clearance from the NBA, phytosanitary certificate is issued by the NBPGR, because it is research material. Then you have the, this is what when we are expressing the difficulty that 1,13,000 designated actions are there in the different crops at ICRISAT, and every time if 5 actions, 10 actions come, checking them as difficult, then they developed the decision support system, where very easily within minutes you can find out whether it is designated or not designated. So not designated means when it is collected? After CBD, that means after 1993 it is collected. Then if it is suppose collected after 93, lying in ICRISAT, then SMTA is used or not used? It is used. Same thing is used. But who will get the benefit? Country from where you collected, their permission is also required. If somebody applies for a accession that is collected after 93, and then you need to take permission from the country of origin, from where you collected. Country of origin does not mean the actual crop origin. From place where you have collected, that country's permission is required, and any benefit comes, the share also will go to that particular country. SMTA you have to mention that, then only it can be sent. This is the general quarantine process, already you must have seen, but for groundnut it is little different. Groundnut we cannot import with shell, it is only seed has to come, kernels have to come, not the shell. Then each seed is tested, then ELISA test is subjected, 10 seeds per sample. Then if there is positive, then each seed is tested, grow test is done for 6 weeks, then any suspected symptoms are seen, and tetrazonium chloride test for bacterial wilt is done, and release the, of 6-fold seedlings are released. In the case of groundnut, it is not the seed which is released to ICRISAT, seedling is, 6-fold seedling is used, and that seedling will go where? Post-entry quarantine, PUQ, and then after the healthy harvest only it is released to them for the CG gene banks. And you have the several problems, sometimes improper packing, seed is already broken, packet broken, and seed is mixed, you can't help. Then consignment is received directly by the consignee, this also happens. By mistake the country, we have written to them that you address it to direct NBPGR, but it is meant for somebody else, but the company gets directly the seed because they made the mistake. So sometimes they come back and give, we have got it, now you please take and release it to us, because they also have to follow the rules and regulations, and in future where from you got this accession, they have to explain that. That's why they, many of them follow the and give it back to that. Treated samples are not allowed for import into India. Why? What's the problem with the treatment? We are not concerned. We are not actually implementing the pesticide residue. तो हमारा concern नहीं है. Okay, रेसिड्यू नहीं होगा तो फिर भी ट्रीटेड अलाउ करेंगे? Why? Why treatment is banned for the imported seeds? The reason is it may suppress the pathogen and we may not get it in our blotter test or any test that we do. Suppress कर देते हैं. Actually it is there, but it will express when it goes to the field. That means it is actually problem. That is why treated seed is not allowed. The ICARDA had lot of problem. I went to ICARDA and then convinced them to say that okay, this is your trial material. Trial material has to be treated. So you send us one set which is not treated. We will examine this and release the trial material and also follow the PEQ, so that biosecurity is maintained for ICARDA. ICARDA, where is it? अभी सीरिया में है क्या? ट्रांसफर कर दिया. 2012 में they started a new gene bank and they restored almost everything. So the place where I went is now a terrorist place. It was safe at that time. Then you have the lack of proper documents. Sometimes PSC is not there, IP is not there. So if it is a government official, they don't care, they just reject it. But what we do is, the germplasm is hardly 10 seeds, somebody has given it with lot of persuasion. And if you say that there is no import permit or there is no phytosanitary, destroy it, then the country's breeding program is affected adversely, whether it is private industry or public industry. So NBPGR has always been looking at that it's a valuable material come to India after a lot of effort, but we want it healthy. So we may not give it to the consignee, but we will try to get the certificates if they are missing on the transit or somewhere, try to get them from the origin place and then examine each seed, and if 95% is infected, 5% is healthy, can we give it? But only in special cases. General rule is if it is 80% infected, reject the entire consignment. That is the general rule. But if it is a wild species, 5 seeds have come, 2 seeds or 3 seeds are infected, then you see that the other seeds are not infected. 2 seasons we can grow, ensure that healthy seed is released, then you do that, help the country in making progress. Sampling is many times difficult in plant genetic resources. जो 1 टन आया तो उसमें से सैम्पलिंग कर सकते हैं. If you are getting 10 grams of seed, उसमें कितना सैम्पल करेंगे, कैसा करेंगे? Sampling के लिए what are the regulations that followed? Sampling के लिए ISTA regulations are the guiding principles. We don't have specific. There are examples. How much it is allowed, it is on the website. But how much sampling for plant quarantine purpose is your judgment and is your technique and innovation to see that every seed is healthy when it is released. DNA, as I told you, is also subjected to quarantine, and then we take lot of undertakings where from it is taken. Sample is to be kept in the genomic resources repository. Specific requirement they have to mention. IPR issues, if they are involved, they have to give an undertaking. Then it can be exported. PEQ inspection at the ICRISAT, and we allow them to do bagging here by selecting them some plants which are good, so that they gain 1 season. So crossing and is not allowed, but bagging is allowed, selfing is allowed in the post-entry quarantine, that they gain a season. Then there are very interesting work from NBPGR. NBPGR is temple for genetic resources research, and the amount of information available is unmatching for any country. You will not have this kind of information. In the interceptions, can you believe that not known to occur in India, but we have intercepted it through while exporting also, and then known to occur but different race on a host which was never reported before. So many times the ornamental plants which they come, which are not supposed to be the hosts of crops pathogens, but they bring lot of crop pathogens along with the ornamentals. So the expected host is different. From a country where it was never reported before, we have reported to Myanmar that you have the PSTV. They don't know. but we have intercepted it and then referred to them. When a new species is reported, sometimes what we have intercepted is not described, it is a new species. So, the examples are given for each kind of category known to occur in India, but it has a wider host range, Cultratecum graminicola, Dreschlera, so many things. So, different kinds of examples are there in these things. What are the policy gaps at CGIAR institutes? WTO never recognizes germplasm because it is not a trade. You do not trade germplasm. Do you trade germplasm? Yes, we do trade. Private companies buy a germplasm worth sometimes $1 million they can buy because they get lot of money. But WTO trade is different. This is a research trade, whereas that is a commercial trade. But so that is why there are no WTO does not give any guidelines on germplasm trade. SPS agreement is not germplasm oriented. ISPM, there is no ISPM for germplasm. Madam, another 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes I will finish it. So, germplasm quarantine norms are NPPO specific. NPPO means what? Yeah, DPPQS in our case. So, CBD is silent about phytosanitary aspects. They talk of conservation. What are the 3 important parts of CBD? Conservation, sustainable use and sharing benefits. These are the 3, but they do not talk about the phytosanitary principles. So, these are all the gaps, and then source and country of origin may not be the same. Country of origin is different. Size of the samples exchanged is very small, cannot be easily subjected to procedures. NPPOs are concerned, health status varies, phytosanitary certificates may not be meaningful. When we showed to the US team when came to Hyderabad, this germplasm has come from your country and it contains full of pathogens. They were surprised. Then what we are doing? So, many times phytosanitary certificate is meaningless. Conservative approach in exporting to IPR issues. Transgenic material has a new dimension of biosafety. The future there is one good news for all of you, this is the last slide. So, what Dr. Apari, where I am also part of it, is helping the FAO, is helping the CG centers is that similar to UK passport, can there be passport data for each accession? That means in CG centers it is possible. Germplasm is collected. From the collection stage, what is its phytosanitary status? And at every stage. So, it is possible. And why do they give to Europe passport? Because passport is linked with their medical records, with their country visits, and with their behavior. Everything can be seen from their passport. All the databases are linked to the passport. So, that is why no visa is required. In visa also you do the same thing. You check the police verification. That is done through the passport itself. That is why visa is not required. That is the reason. So, similar European passport like thing, green pass, the CG centers want. The difficulty is how can you give a green pass to CG centers and how can you ignore other institutes. So, if we are also maintaining the same data, we should also get the green pass. So, maintaining data is most important, that needs to be looked into it. So, the data is required from collection, conservation, evaluation, field inspection, utilization and exchange, pre-export and post-entry testing, everything if it is done, all data is available with the germplasm, then green pass is possible for anybody, not necessarily for CG centers. Thank you very much for all your patient hearing.